Hello everyone, it's Shannon here. Thank you so much for joining me today. In this video, we are going to take a closer look at Pinkfresh Studio's brand new line of dye inks. There are 48 different colors in this line and I love them. They stamp beautifully. I'll also be sharing a few techniques that I tried with these inks as well, so let's get started. First, let's take a look at one of the ink pads themselves. So this is one of the ink pads. As you can see, it has a color label on the outside, and when you open it up, you have a raised felt ink pad. I love these for stamping. They work really well. And this is obviously the regular size, but you can get all of these 48 colors in minis as well, which is really wonderful. I've organized my colors two ways. One, using the coin pocket method, which you see here. I used waffle flowers, color combos die to die cut the 2x2 squares. Then I used the color combos for ink pad stamp set to swatch out my ink colors. Then I labeled using the bullet list stamp set, all from Waffle Flower. And I really like the coin organization system. That's one really great way. I kind of use both pocket coin system as well as the tag system, which I'm showing you here. The tag here is cut with the color combos tag die from Waffle Flower, and again I use the color combos die, the color combos for ink pad stamp set, and the bullet list stamp set again. And here I'm showing you a closer look at these colors. I again love these colors. They stamp beautifully. As you can see, they're organized in groupings of 4, and these are really great for creating your lights, mediums, and darks for layered stamp sets. So I really love how Pinkfresh created kind of 4 shades in one kind of color family. I think that was going to make it really helpful and really easy to do those layering stamp sets. So I'm just now going through all the colors, kind of pointing out some of my favorites. That aqua section, those aqua colors right there are gorgeous. This is some of the blues, and then we have more of a violet blue, and then which are great for sky, especially the Stargazer. I love that color. And here we have some purples, really pretty purples. I'm not always a big fan of purples, but I love these in that the Pinkfresh have created. And we have some great browns. The warm buff, the lightest one, would be great for no line coloring, and then some nice pretty grays. And I really like the warmness of that misty coast. So some really pretty colors. Now let's move on to stamping it out so you can see how they look when they're stamped. So I just have a leaf here. It's a solid leaf stamp from the Lovely Blossom stamp set by Pinkfresh Studio, and I'm going to ink it up in the Mermaid Cove color, which is what I showed you earlier, and I'll just hand stamp it here on some white cardstock so you can see what it looks like. Hand stamped single layer, so no misty, no multiple stamping, and you can see how beautifully it covered. It looks a little splotchy now, but I promise you it will completely even out and it'll be a nice flat perfect color. So I was just really impressed with how these stamped. I thought they stamped really well. And then I just did a little second generation stamping just so you could see them side by side, kind of the difference in color. So really pretty. And this is a dark kind of color ink, so it really did stamp beautifully. So now we're going to move on to, while that leaf is kind of drying, we're going to move on to ink blending, because I wanted to just kind of give you a range here and see how these inks perform and, well, in our typical methods that we like to use as card makers. So I'm just going to do some ink blending here. I have 3 colors picked out, kind of a light, medium, and dark blue, and I'm going to ink blend this whole panel here with these colors. I'm just using the mini ink blending tools here, so nothing really fancy. I do always, whenever I ink blend, I tap off the excess on some scrap paper before I approach my panel and do some ink blending. That just helps prevent any harsh kind of lines. And I'm now moving on to my darkest shade. This is that Stargazer color that I was pointing out earlier. I really love this color for like night skies. It's really pretty. But to get up the intensity, I'm going to do a lot of ink blending here to make it nice and dark and really that midnight kind of blue color. And once I go through my first layer, then I'll go back through my colors again. So now I'm back with my medium here, which is Blue Jay. I'm blending over that transition between the Stargazer and my lightest color, which is Summer Shower. And I'll just finish up by ink blending a little bit more of that Summer Shower right where it meets the Blue Jay, just kind of smoothing out that gradation. And that will actually complete my kind of ink blended background here. So I think these inks ink blend beautifully as well. So now I'm going to move on to another technique, which is ink smushing. So I have a sheet of acetate here, and I'm going to start with my lightest ink color, which I picked out, and that is Meadow, and I just smushed that ink pad down onto the acetate to release some of the ink, and then spritz the ink with some water, and then I'll flip the acetate sheet over and press it down onto a panel of 110-pound white cardstock. So I'm just using regular white cardstock here. It is a heavy weight. That's partly to avoid the warping, but you could also use watercolor paper if you prefer. I just really like the white look of regular cardstock. So after I did a little bit more ink smushing with my Meadow, I'm now moving on to my medium shade, which I picked out. It was just olive, and I'm just smushing some of that on there, and then I'll move on to my darkest color, which is completely in a different color family. Actually, these are all from different color families. This one is Tidal Pond, and just smush that down on there as well. And I'm loving all the layers and the little bit of specks that I'm getting of different colors. And I'm not drying this in between, I'm just going one on top of the other. I am not getting my inks super drippy and wet, but I really do love how these Pinkfresh Studio inks worked with this technique. They really maintained their vibrancy, and I just think it was so beautiful. I went ahead and die cut that panel out with the layered reef die. I die cut it twice out of 2 ink smushed panels and stacked them on top to create that reef. Now I'm going to show you what I did with that ink blended panel. I stamped and heat embossed my panel with some stamps from the Sparkle with Magic stamp set and completed that card. So really simple cards, both featuring the Pinkfresh inks. Now I'm going to show you another technique. This is stamping, but kind of diluting your inks before you stamp, and it's a really pretty, kind of creates a watercolor look, but very easy to do. You always want to start with your lightest color because you don't want to cross contaminate. So I've got some greens picked out, and I just kind of partially inking up the stamp, and then I'm moving on to darker shades each time, getting a little bit darker. Just 4 kind of greens or aquas kind of picked out, so colors that are kind of close to each other on the color wheel, so they will, when they mix together, they'll blend nicely. Then I spritzed the stamp a couple times with some water, and then I'll just fold my MISTI over here and stamp it right down onto my panel, which again is 110-pound white cardstock. And I'll hold it to the camera here so you can see the colors kind of mix together on the stamp, and when they stamp down you get this beautiful gradation of colors. It's just really pretty. It almost looks like I hand watercolored this, but you saw it took me like a couple seconds to create this this image. Now I'm going to move on to just adding some splatters. So again, I have my acetate sheet here, and I just pressed down a little bit of ink from I'm going to do it for all the 4 colors that I picked out for that reef, and just mixed it with some water, and then picked it up with my paintbrush, and then I will kind of tap on the paintbrush to create these little splatters all around the reef, and that again will kind of push that look, that kind of watercolored look, and just soften it up, and I think it just makes it a nice little detail. So now I'm finishing up with my darkest color, which is Tidal Pond, and that will complete that panel. So you can see here, really pretty and really fast and easy to do. And I have 2 finished cards here to show you. Before we take a look at those finished cards, I want to show you how this leaf looks now that it's completely dry. As you can see, the ink has really evened out, and again, I just hand stamped this, so this is just 1 layer of ink, so these inks really do stamp beautifully. So now let's move on to the finished cards. I just finished up this panel that we created together by stamping a sentiment, which is also from the Delicate Reef stamp set. So the same stamp set where the reef stamp came from. I stamped it in VersaFine Onyx Black ink, and then I finished with a couple clear gems just to add a little bit of sparkle and dimension, and then glued it onto an A2 top folding card base. Here is another one that I created with some different colors from the Pinkfresh line. These colors are Lemon Whip, Clementine, Persimmon, and Royal Kiss, and I really like how these colors mix together, very kind of an autumn fall feel. Now I'm going to move on to showing you the finished products of all the cards we created. So here's that ink blended card with the Sparkle with Magic stamp set. Here are our ink smushed reefs, and again a little bit of ink blending around the side with Ocean Breeze. And here are our faux watercolor stamped cards as well. I hope you guys enjoyed today's card and video. If you want any more information, please check out the links below in the description. And if you like this video, I'd love for you to subscribe to my channel, or you can follow me on Instagram or check out my blog, which I'll also share the links in the description. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you guys have a wonderful day.